It's iPhone launch day, and the smartest thing you can do is, well, avoid dropping it on the sidewalk. But the second most intelligent choice you can make when Apple breaks out the fine china is to survey the competition, because there's always a lot of great alternatives out there. So as always, we'll talk iPhones and Windows and Android on episode 114 of the Pocketnow Weekly, the once-a-week podcast where we discuss news and opinion from the world of mobile technology, from smartphones to tablets to wearables, all the stuff you wished existed when you were a kid. From Boston, Massachusetts, where iPhones flow like polar seltzer, I'm your host, Michael Fisher. I'm joined by Chief News Editor Stephen Shank, bringing us the latest mobile happenings from New Jersey. Good afternoon.
How are you, Mr. Marbles in your mouth, Michael?
I recovered just in time. Joined by, we'll be blessed, rather, by the presence of another new iPhone owner today, Senior Editor Taylor Martin from the birthplace of modern aviation. Who knows when he'll show up, because he's got a big thing to handle. In the meantime, joining us from Android and Me, a staple of the Untethered podcast, and a man with very specific tastes in macaroni and cheese, so you know I like him. Down and dirty, Dustin Early. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, sir.
I'm glad you're here. We have an intimate gathering right now. I'll explain my headgear in just 1 second. But
you know who I finally realized you look like? Do you remember this like Bollywood Terminator-style movie that the trailers were making all over the internet a year or two ago?
No, but I feel like no.
If you look for this, you look like the Bollywood Terminator.
These, Matrix sunglasses will do a wonderful thing for your appearance on the internet. Before we get to any of that, before we get to iPhone news, I mentioned we are going to talk a bit about Android today, and if there's one thing we love about our Android phones, it's the level of freedom that they grant us. For example, you can change your home screen by switching to a custom launcher and waving TouchWiz or Sense bye-bye. One such launcher that you should consider, which also happens to be a sponsor of the Pocketnow Weekly, coincidentally, is Themer. Themer is different from other launchers because it contains a theming engine that allows you to easily apply a theme from its library. And once you apply that theme, the wallpaper, icons, and widgets are all set up for you. Built into Themer are widgets that can show you the weather, let you control your music, show you your next calendar appointments, view a live news reader, much more. Not only will your home screen be beautiful, with Themer, it'll be more usable, too. Grab Themer from the Play Store today, Themer. A link is in the description. Damn it. I always have a great time doing that, and it's wonderful, and I think I've done a wonderful job. And then the next thing you know, I come back to the chat, and I realize I forgot to lock the camera on Jules. So this beautiful card that he made up with the Themer logo is neglected, and in fact, it's just an idiot sitting here with sunglasses on indoors.
Just
Folks,
the
I couldn't.
Bollywood Terminator.
Just the Bollywood Terminator, wasting everyone's time. Folks, I couldn't find my fake glasses today, and I also couldn't find my Gunnar optics, so I threw on the first pair of things that I could find. So let us know in the Q&A.
You're allowed to have no eyewear. We're not going to cancel the podcast just because you didn't come through.
I don't mind having. Thanks, Jules. I don't mind having no eyewear in any other venue of my life except at Pocketnow. At Pocketnow, I feel like I have to be wearing some gear.
You're naked without them.
Same time, Stephen, you have never worn glasses on this podcast, and yet the one time I've seen you in real life, you wore glasses and they looked good. So why don't you do it?
I don't know. I guess with my contacts in. I'm getting used to focusing without lenses in front of my eyes all morning. So
I appreciate the solidarity you've shown by putting on your own sunglasses just now. Dustin, do you have any?
I don't think I do, actually.
It's okay. You know what? You can, even if you did, I would lie to me too. It's okay. Just say no.
Nope. No sunglasses here. So.
No, I don't see them. All right, we have a rundown that was painstakingly crafted by me, and I was very much relying on the presence of Taylor Martin to kind of do a little give and take in the announcements section here. But since he's not here, that's okay. We'll just sort of blast through this. Stephen, why don't you kick us off after Jules sounds the announcement bell, if he would.
Yeah, I can't read with these.
There it is. And, Stephen, why don't you go ahead and kick us off with a long overdue announcement?
Yeah, so I know a lot of you have been, well, thank you, first of all, to those of you who participated in the latest in our summer of Pocketnow smartphone giveaways. We had, back at the start of September, if you can remember back that far, in the heady days before IFA and the iPhone 6, so long ago, it's like a distant past. But we were giving away this super duper LG G3 with this one-of-a-kind custom skin from the guys at D Brand. This really cool international look to it. We have our winner. It is Shiva Kumar of India. Mr. Kumar, your G3 should be getting out to you shortly, Michael? Very soon?
Very soon indeed.
Yeah. But again, thanks to everyone who participated. Hopefully we'll have the opportunity to give away another phone at some point in the future. And for now, just keep on looking for announcements. If not any phones are giving away, we always have these great offers from Pocketnow Deal Store, so be on the lookout for those as well.
Yeah, and I want to say also, I'm sorry about the announcement being this late.
Yeah, that's my bad.
It's my bad too. We had some delays. Our partner also, they had some trouble over at D-Brand that was really sucky. So like, it wasn't, there was no question of
it's
missteps
been a busy time of year for everybody.
Yeah, We won't get into specifics, but anyway, we really thank them. That's a beautiful skin, and we hope that winner enjoys it. The other announcements include a Motorola Moto X review by yours truly. That is up on our website right now, in addition to a Moto G comparison and a Moto 360 review. So the entire Motorola suite is almost up. Taylor's Moto G review should be done soon, even though he's just taken delivery on that iPhone 6 Plus. So watch for all of that. It is there. Dustin, have you had any time to talk about or get exposure to the new Motorola line?
No, I'm actually in line to receive some. Sean Riley with Android Me was the one who went to the press event, so he has the whole lineup, and I'm in contact with Motorola to be next in line, which I'm very, very excited about, because the original Moto X and Moto G were probably my two favorite Android phones for 2013.
I'm with you on that one. Not the Moto E though. No love for the E.
I mean, it's a little too low end for me, I guess.
Yeah, no, the E was pretty rough from where I was in. Yeah, so that whole lineup is up, and also Taylor Martin's iOS 8 hands-on video is also here, which I frankly have not seen much of, and I've just installed iOS 8 on my own last night on one of my older iPads, or actually Pocketnow's older iPad. And, whatever. I mean, I didn't notice a significant change because, you're not supposed to notice a significant change in the UI, which is sad.
This ain't no iOS 7 after all.
Yeah, exactly. You can't always reinvent the pastel box. So let's hop into news so we can get to the funniest story of the podcast. Jules, news? Steven, I was up late last night working on some Apple stuff, prepping for today, putting up another Moto X comparison, and I noticed a story on Twitter that made me LOL. What happened here?
This poor kid. So all over the world, Apple fans, those of us who didn't pre-order our devices, have been waiting in lines in front of Apple stores and authorized retailers, hoping to get one of the first chances to get their hands on this hardware. And sure enough, in Australia, which is by its position in the world, it's one of the first places where sales of new devices are going to open on any given day. And the news crew's out there checking out, everyone's standing in line, talking to the people who actually were at the first of the line, able to get their hands on the device. And there's this kid, and he really wants to show his new iPhone 6 off to the cameras. And so he's standing there, and he just got the thing. They're out on the sidewalk. He's struggling to. It's a well-designed box. It's nice materials. It's holding up well. So as a result, doing this sort of one-handed, he's struggling getting the box open, and as the lid comes off, the contents just go tumbling down onto the sidewalk. And before he can even lay his hands on the phone itself, it's just down gravel. And supposedly the phone was fine, but you have to believe it's a little dinged up. It's never going to have that beautiful mirror finish. It's just it's everyone's nightmare.
I just saw it for the first time because Jules put it in the video feed for us, and you should watch this video. Like I wanted to see it, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to see it, and it is. I think you guys can agree with me. It's pretty painful, isn't it? Yeah.
It is painful.
But I want to say that Stephen, you're right. It was survived without a scratch, as he said on Twitter. I should make the point that what's the young man's name, or the man's name? Do we know? Look that up for me. I followed him on Twitter after
I want
everyone
to
else
say his
followed him on Twitter.
initials.
Well, he gets very angry when people call him a kid because he's of age, as he's made the point many times before. But he's angry at himself that he hasn't.
Jack Cooksey, Mr. Cooksey.
There you go.
That's how you can tell somebody's like 17 or like 18 or 19.
I refer to anyone below
I'm old
30
enough to
as
sit
a
at the
kid.
grown-ups table. Come on.
All
Yeah.
those kids running Facebook, you know? It's
Damn kids. Well, there is another high point to this story, and it is that I believe his iPhone is totally fine because I just unboxed right before we came on the air, which is why we were a little bit late starting the show today. I just unboxed Pocketnow's iPhone 6,
yeah.
which is plugged into
look at
look at that, huh? And it's plugged into a power cable, so I can't raise it any higher into the frame than this. But it's the iPhone 6. I can't stop fidgeting with it. But let me get to my point. When you take it out of the box, it's wrapped up in a nice little transparent Apple envelope.
There we go.
It covers almost every part of the thing. And it looked like our unfortunate friend's phone landed pretty much face down, or, I think back down. And I think it was probably entirely protected. So that's a good thing.
I think you should drop test yours there just to see exactly how far you can drop it before you get some damage.
Yeah, let's move the podcast out to the train tracks. Let's go do a live drop test. Wouldn't that be fun?
Yeah.
Actually, if we thought about that and bought more than one iPhone ahead of time, that might be it. Actually, might have been actually like the best way ever to grow the Pocketnow Weekly's audience. But we're not going to do that. At least not yet. So we do have this unboxed. I can't stop playing with it. I just want to talk about very briefly about how it feels in the hand, and it's awesome. Okay.
I didn't know you were going there for a second with that sound you made. It was kind of is it an eh or is it an eh?
That's because I took a look at it as I was saying it, and I am still not sold on this piping at top and bottom. This inlaid polycarbonate or whatever they have done, but when you close your eyes and just feel what it's like in the hand, I mean, it's reminiscent of the first gen iPhone with its rounded corners, but to say it feels solid is not enough. It feels like there is not a single cubic nanometer of wasted space within it. It is the most dense device that I've felt in a very long time. And yes, indeed, the glass does flow right down into the edges in a very seductively awesome way.
You know, I'm sure we're going to talk about the design of this thing a lot in the days and weeks to come. And I don't love the piping, but I feel like it could have been a lot better if just the coloring was a little different. I feel like there's way too much contrast right now. It stands out a little too much.
Right, but like I think unless you're gonna try and make it completely invisible, you have to sort of embrace it, right? If you've decided that these elements are going to be there, you have got to make them stand out, or else you're caught trying to like cover something up and not succeeding, right?
Possibly, yeah. And I guess Apple did give us some options with the 3 colors out there, but
speaking of
I'm
covering
going to find
things
something
up,
to complain about.
this isn't in the rundown, guys, but I would like to hear your thoughts on Apple's completely obvious attempt to hide the camera bulb, which is there.
I wanted to do an update on that because I was poking around. Anytime I'm running a story about the iPhone 6, I'm always looking for new imagery because until we have our official Pocketnow review, where the guys are going to take a bunch of pictures, I'm looking for press shots and things. Mm-hmm. So I was digging through the site, and I think I was also looking on the purchasing pages rather than the presentation side. And I found a couple where it has a side view where Apple does show the protrusion. So I may need to update that story, but
so yeah, what does that mean?
We're talking about.
They've changed their press photos to now show the thing, or
no? Because the ones that so for those of you who haven't seen this, what some people started noticing, and it took us a couple days to catch on to this, was that in all these photos up on Apple's site, when it's showing just a full-on side view of the phone, it completely whitewashed the tiny, insignificant camera lens protrusion. It's there, it's not a big deal, but it seemed kind of weird that Apple didn't at least acknowledge it. And all these paranoid accusations being thrown about that Apple's deliberately trying to make people forget about it. Some people saying maybe Apple's just trying to control how the phone's presented. But sure enough, some other manufacturers are a lot more willing to show the camera bumps in their phones than Apple was. But no, it's not completely all of them are missing. I did find at least one where they still show it. They haven't put it back on all of them, so I don't think Apple's willing to do a full about face here. But
interesting. Yeah, I don't. I found it to be at least as well. No, it wasn't quite as significant as Nokia trying to pass off a professional Steadicam shot as a shot from a Lumia phone, but it is just straight up lying, isn't it? Like, I mean, I don't mind you presenting your render at an angle. I don't mind you presenting a photograph at a particular angle to make a device more flattering. I mean,
right, and the side views, or just even the angle views from the back, those clearly showed it. It's just when you would have seen the protrusion against a white background, Apple decided not to have that at all.
It's just in the most obvious positioning that you could possibly hold it. They decided to obscure it.
But it's funny because in the comments, we posted this news. Some of the readers of the site were complaining about, well, no, other insurers do this too. And so I was looking for examples. Someone mentioned the OnePlus, and I went and pulled up some of the renders from OnePlus's website, and yeah, on some of them it does show that phone's camera bump, but it's not consistent. Like if they were showing a top-down view, from the top looking down they showed the bump, but they didn't show it from the bottom up, which makes sense because the bump's at the top of the phone, but it should still be in the plane of view. So there don't seem to be industry standards on how companies present their devices. There's no agreed upon way. From certain angles you have to show certain sides with, I don't know, there's some wiggle room here.
Ban them all, I say.
I worry we're being too harsh on Apple. I know it should have been more plainly depicting the device that we get. That would have been nice. And this is just opening itself up for criticism. But
if they presented the picture purely as this is this is the design of our device. If that's all they were showing off, I think it's okay to not show the camera. Because they're trying to get you to focus more on, well, this is what the new body looks like, so you can kind of get an idea of what it's going to feel like,
Right.
Yeah, and when Apple was talking about the camera specifically, it has a great exploded view shot of it. It's very clear how the size of this thing. So it's not like they're trying to ignore it altogether. They're just choosing when they want to acknowledge it.
So whether or not the press photos were presented properly, and other P words that I've yet to think of. In the hand, in person, if you are looking at the camera, it protrudes noticeably, certainly, yes. Is it bothersome? Not in the hand, but when I put it down on a table, I feel the same way as I did back when, what was it, the Evo 4G on Sprint had the protruding camera lens, and it would rest on the camera, and a lot of HTC cameras did that.
A lot of phones do that. Anytime you have a protrusion, it's going to be the biggest thing on the back of the phone. It has to rest against it when it's lying
down. And at least here, it's not at the apex of the the convex back, because it is not a convex back. It's completely slab-sided in that regard. But it's still, I see why it's a topic of discussion. Like, it sounds like we're nitpicking. It sounds like we're trying to find fault with an otherwise fantastically built product. But I really do hate it when a camera sticks out, unless it's something like the Lumia 1020, where first of all, they've gone full ugly. They've just embraced the warthoginess of the thing. And second of all, though, the lens itself is protected within the larger camera module. It's only the aluminum casing of the camera module that actually makes contact with the table.
The 1020 really isn't that bad, though. I finally had a chance to check one out in person. I met up with a writer for the site, Adam Lane, for the first time this week. And he was showing me his 1020. Yeah. And I was actually looking for an example when this was the same day, I think, I wrote the piece about the lens on the iPhone. And I'm thinking of an example of a phone that has a ridiculous bump, and I'm pulling some up, and I'm thinking the 1020 popped into my mind, and I look at it, it's not so bad. Compared to the 808, that thing's redonkulous.
yeah, the 808
world of difference.
Definitely wins the prize for world's most ridiculous bump, but it was worth it.
Yeah.
It propelled us into a new era of smartphone photography.
Not to derail the conversation too much, but I was thinking about this issue of these lens bumps, and I was looking at my Nexus 5, and I was cleaning up my bedside table, and this is one of the most under-noticed things about the lens bump on the Nexus 5 that annoys me by surprise when I forget about it, that it's magnetic for some reason, and so it ended up picking up all of the loose staples on my desk. Which loose staples are fine, but loose staples being attracted to a glass lens really makes me nervous.
Oh, yeah, no, that's frustrating. Is it magnetic so that it can accommodate those, like, Olo clips or whatever?
Yeah, the rumor was it would for like lens accessories, but I don't know if I've ever seen official ones released, nor it doesn't seem strong enough to really hold anything on. But for some reason, it's magnetic, so be careful.
Which reminds me, before we move on to the next iPhone story, Dustin, what are you carrying for a daily driver? We don't talk smartphones much on Untethered, so I'm like behind on this stuff.
I use an iPhone 5S.
Oh, crap! So okay, so what do you think about this design evolution on the 6 before we talk about the 6 Plus?
I like it a lot. I was a huge fan of the original iPhone, but I'm gonna kind of echo the sentiment that's been going around in lots of different blogs. Is that I would have loved for it to have been a little bit thicker, keep the camera flush, and put a really big battery in it. I think they totally could have gotten away with it. I think I can't think of any person in real life that I know that would have said, no, I'd rather have it a little bit thinner than if you'd say, would you rather have it last 6 hours longer on a charge?
Yeah.
Everybody would say, oh, yeah, of course. But it looks
That's a solid
really,
point.
You've not
really
given us the
nice.
option.
Yeah, no, that is a solid point. I'm just kind of I've got it in the hand now, and I'm countenancing it, and I don't know that I would have liked it to be thicker. But at the same time, until you started mentioning thinness, I didn't remember that they'd shaved some thickness off of it. So I am tempted to say at first impressions that they made the right choice. That maybe I would sacrifice some battery life because I don't think I want this thicker. I really don't. I think these are really almost perfect dimensions.
Now what? The iPhone 6 is 6.9 millimeter thick.
Sure.
How thick was the 5S?
Impossibly thin.
Cricket.
Does anybody? Nobody remembers.
I know the 5S I think it feels really good. Like, I like the thickness of it, and I even use a case, and I have probably, like, incredibly small hands compared to just about anybody else my age.
I remember spotting the 5S or the 5 in the wild for the first time.
7.6.
So it was 7.6. I
Yeah.
remember feeling like that was stunningly thin, and it's less evident on this device because of its rounded sides. I mean, you don't have that sheer right angle that calls out the plane of the side rails. It just kind of, which makes it more comfortable to hold, I will say. And yes, you do feel that screen, the screen kind of falling onto the sides, as I mentioned before, but. Yeah, I don't know. This is fun. I'm literally 40 minutes into having this thing, so I don't know. I want to hear about the Plus though, and another thing I was seeing on Twitter after our poor friend dropped his phone all over the sidewalk was that many people waiting in lines everywhere were saying the 6 Plus was already sold out. Apple employees were running up and down the line and saying, "Hey guys, the 6 Plus is no longer available." So what's the story
We
there?
warned you.
We did. We talked about it, but do we know anything about why this is? Are these component shortages? Did they make a smaller inventory?
It seems like Apple had fewer of these on hand. A report went out yesterday. BGR had called up a bunch of its sources at various retail locations, including Apple stores and retailers who would be authorized to be selling the phone this morning. Asked them what was going on with their stocks, and what they generally heard was that the 6 Plus made up this ridiculously tiny portion of in-store inventory. Something like 2 to 3% of the new iPhones coming, not just of the phones in the store total. So, if they have 100 iPhone 6s in stock, 2 or 3 6 Pluses. And then even of those, there were going to be limitations on what sort of options would be available. They talked about no 16-gigabyte models, maybe stores only having one color. Didn't mention which color, but just not a lot of choices. So the fact that people in line are not having the opportunity to buy the 6 Plus is not at all surprising.
You have to imagine that after the supposedly Apple underestimated 5S demand when the 5S and the 5C came out, and they just churned out a ton of 5Cs, so the 5Ss were in short supply. You have to imagine that after that supposedly happened last year, which I still don't know if I believe, that they would possibly willingly do that with the 6 Plus. It has to be component shortages.
Yeah, I mean, there were all these rumors in the weeks leading up to the launch. We didn't even know if we were going to get the 5.5-inch model at the time. There were talks that it might be delayed until later when we had that iPad event, maybe even next year. So I feel like there's been this trend in the rumors relating to the supply chain that Apple might not have enough. I don't know what particular components might be holding this up, but not enough to put enough of these larger models together to meet demand. And clearly there's a huge demand for these. iOS users are really embracing this larger size.
With display resolutions, doesn't it work some way similar to where like the 5S and the 6, because technically they're the same aspect ratio and everything, you could probably just cut the same panel into different sizes for both phones. But with the 5 or with the 6 Plus, wouldn't you have to use a totally new panel? Or is it just all new? Because isn't it a new technology, I guess, now, right?
What, a new display panel technology?
Yeah.
I actually do not know. I've been somewhat distracted choosing between standard or zoomed displays on here, which I rather like. By the way, in my initial setup of this iPhone, which is taking place right now, the iPhone 6, I was reminded of my favorite Apple feature ever on the hardware, and that's that little mute switch that they stole from Palm back in the day. People
Wait, that's
steal
a mute
more of
switch?
this. Yes.
I always assumed it was like a key lock. I mean, isn't that what the hardware switches normally are?
No, well, I don't know. I mean, normally, the people can do whatever they want with them, but no, you switch it. It's just one touch muting on the phone. On Palm, it used to be a hardware interrupt switch. I think it actually like interrupted the speaker like wire or something. But it is such a great idea, and not enough manufacturers have been stealing this, presumably because they don't want to get into a patent fight. But I don't know. But it's just fantastic. It's terrific. I did that so you didn't hear my chiclet tapping of my initial setup.
Didn't it used to be that you could use that switch to switch between? You could choose to either put the phone on vibrate, or you could choose to orientation lock it with that switch.
Yeah, orientation lock would make sense.
Orientation lock is what they did on the first iPad, because they had the switch on the side. I'm like, what are you going to have a ringer silencer on an iPad for? What? And then Apple was like, no, you use it to lock the display rotation. I'm like, oh, that makes so much more sense. And then the iPad 2 came out, and they're like, oh, by the way, now it's a ringer mute too. I'm like, no, that makes no sense. And fortunately, they give you the choice now, so that's all right. We learned a little bit about. I didn't go today. We pre-ordered this one. Taylor pre-ordered his. We have a couple others, and it's like, hey, I sort of wanted to wait in line this year because I waited in line for the 3GS, as I've said before, at an Apple Store, and that was a unique experience. Have you ever waited in line for one, Dustin?
No.
You've always pre-ordered.
I am not an early adopter. I am all about waiting, 3, 4, 6 months, whatever it takes to make sure there's no issues. Make sure there's no glaring hardware problems. I've done it way too many times with phones and especially video game consoles. It just drives me nuts. So I'm done. I bought this 5S used for $400. Used. I say that lightly because it was brand new. So I got like $300 off retail, and I knew that guaranteed there was no problems with it. So that's totally the way to do it, I think.
Did you get burned by a red-ringed 360 back in the day?
Several.
Yeah.
We talked about that a bit. All right. Well, I like early adoption. It's fun. I like.
It's your jam.
It is. I like being among the first. I think that's really important. I just got really distracted by someone in the chat who's using all caps for a whole paragraph, and it's really disconcerting when people do that. Please don't do that. So yeah. No, I really like being among the first to have something, and actually, it's always kind of a weird moment for me a couple weeks after I've been an early adopter on something, and I see somebody else with that device out in the wild. I'm like, oh, because I feel less special then. But it's more than that. It's like enjoying the camaraderie of other people in the line when you go wait for it. I've found that to be very fun, which I did for the Palm Pre. I did for the 3GS or the 3G. I did a couple other things. So anyway, I wanted to wait in line this year, but I couldn't because we pre-ordered, and I've been too busy with Moto X stuff and a bunch of other stuff. So I'm not there, but somebody leaked the game plan, the sort of Apple internal document for the iPhone launch.
Yeah.
And like, oh, retail, it doesn't matter who's doing retail. It's like retail is always going to be the same in some respects. And what are some of the standouts here?
The only interesting thing I really saw was the talk about the stocks that Apple's going to have in the stores, that it's reserving for people who have problems with their new iPhone. So it's anticipating either a certain amount of hardware
4%.
failures. Yeah, maybe like this guy who dropped the phone and breaking it right out of the box and need an Apple Care replacement. But yeah, they're going to have, limited stocks of things to begin with. I wonder how many of those 4% of phones being held for the reserves are the 6 Plus. That's probably like one per state. What we're hearing now, but
I like seeing all the retail lingo in this thing. Like it's like Apple will be handing out refreshments. Everyone
like
must be greeted with a warm welcome. Yeah, it is like tailgating. If a customer declines personal setup, then specialists have to hand out icing cards, which invite the customer to return to the Apple Store for future training needs. I don't know why that's called an icing card. Maybe somewhere out there is.
Isn't that when you force someone to drink a Smirnoff Ice that's spontaneously presented to them?
Yeah. Well, they've only got Mike's Hard Lemonade at Apple stores, though, thanks to a strategic partnership, from what I hear. But it's fascinating. I just think that's one of my favorite parts of Apple as a company, actually, is the fact that almost every time I've gone into an Apple retail store, it has been a wonderful experience from front to back, and they have more often than not taken care of my problem, with the notable exception of them not being able to repair the computer I was bringing to Anton in Berlin the morning I was leaving.
Oh, I remember that story.
That was not a good time for anyone. Waiting 9 hours on an aircraft as you cross the Atlantic, only to realize that you're landing in the presence of a boss you've never met, who is very angry with you, is not something I'd recommend to anybody.
At least if you're bringing a broken computer, you can declare a $0 value on the customs form, right?
Yeah, I don't think I brought it. I think I left it at home. I didn't bring it. Anyway, what's next on the rundown? Let's keep moving here, because we don't have a Taylor Martin. We don't have a 6 Plus. That's what I wanted to talk about for most of the show, Taylor. This is
Martin. My
unboxing is waiting for the podcast, so I don't see why he can't be here. Someone track him down. Dustin, will you bother him?
Yeah,
I hope he's in the middle of filming. Will you send him a hangout right now, just so it ruins his shot, whatever it is?
Blow up his spot. Yeah.
Yes, blow up his spot. What's
non-Apple news? There have been other companies doing their smartphone things in the world still. Sony has some bad news for people hoping it would, sort of dominate the global stage as it tries to make its phones a little more accessible, and it's been coming out with flagships more frequently. It seemed to be stepping up its game a little, but its latest earnings statement reveals it's not doing that well financially when it comes to smartphones, and it's losing money on them, and its estimates ended up, the actuality of its losses ended up being quadruple its estimates. So that ain't good, and especially in this mid-range market, it's just not attracting the sales it would hope to.
4 times the losses they were expecting. That
may just speak to it's bad at estimating its performance rather than selling phones, but.
Right, but is that any less concerning, right? Yeah. When you have a player in the market who thinks that they're going to be able to move all these units, and then suddenly they really, really don't?
I've always wondered how much Sony's putting into smartphones, how much of its heart is in this, because it has so many varied interests in media, film, gaming consoles. The smartphones have always been hanging around as, they're there, but especially in the US, we haven't really been interested in them, especially because they haven't been very available, and Sony, at least in the past year or so, has not seemed very interested in doing anything about that. That may be changing in the future. The Z3 is certainly attracting more attention than the Z2 did, but it's not good at all. Any way you slice this is not very promising for Sony's Xperia outcome, and I don't know what it can really do about this, because its mid-rangers, they've been nice-looking phones, but they keep that same aesthetic as the flagships, but they've been plagued by large bezels, really unattractive pricing. Sony, even its mid-rangers, never really feel like budget devices. And unless it really rethinks what it's doing there, I don't know what it can do to help itself out in that corner of the market.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it is a little tough to get excited by Sony products, I will say. Not because they're bad, and not certainly I've talked enough about how much I love the Z3 Compact on the show, the Z1 Compact as well. But it's tough to get excited about them repeatedly because every 6 months they're releasing one that looks exactly like the one they released last year. And even this year with the Z3 taking a big deviation from where the Z1 and the Z2 were in terms of fit and finish, it's still not. It's not a big enough change to get me terribly excited for it.
Do we need a big change though? At first I was objecting to the idea of this really sped up release schedule, but then you stop thinking about it so much as it has to have a bold new phone. I mean, if carrier's doing it's one phone a year for its flagship line, like an HTC, Samsung, or Apple, then yeah, you have to expect big, noteworthy improvements, or at least really, really refined design and give people a reason to be excited. I don't know that Sony necessarily needs to do that, especially with the 6-month schedule that it has. It can just, if you can sell the idea of the Xperia line rather than the phones themselves, I think that would be the key to making this work.
Yeah, but I think that's a tough idea. I think the thing that makes Xperia phones special is the fact that they are beautiful in the sense that like squared off glass things are generally beautiful.
I love that look. Yeah.
I don't love it, but I think it's fine. Right, it's good looking, and while it's good looking, it also happens to be thin. And while those two things are true, it also is waterproof, and that's all amazingly cool stuff. I don't think. I can't say. Maybe some of our European viewers or maybe some of our Asian area viewers and listeners can clue us into how well Sony advertises over there, because while, HTC certainly has kicked up its advertising this year, and even that is barely a tenth of what Samsung continues to do to just saturate the market, reminding you that the next big thing is here. And it's like, okay, that's boring, but at least you're saying it everywhere. Like everyone in every corner is shouting it.
I know this won't be a popular idea, but I really think that Sony could do itself some favors by embracing some of the weirder designs it's played with in the past. Not necessarily that. Do you remember the Tablet S, I want to say?
Samsung
it was
tablet.
it was like a Nintendo DS or something with screens on both sides.
Wait, from... Oh, wait, no. The Xperia...
Xperia S?
No, it's the Tablet
They
P.
built it as a tablet, yeah, but it was like a phone with two screens.
Yeah, it looked like an eyeglass case.
Really, I want to see a new Xperia play. I didn't like the hardware controller on the first one, but I feel like if they would have stuck with that idea, we could have had like the next NVIDIA Shield, but one that people would want to buy.
Oh,
And
totally.
instead, it's dropped the ball.
The Tablet P was one of the first review devices I asked for when I came on board, because I was writing on tablets at that point. I requested it so hard, dude. It was like the only thing in the market that was different at that point, like in terms of form factor. I really liked, except like Sony's Tablet S or whatever it was with the folded magazine plastic.
The one that had a weird lump on the edge.
So lame. I hated that.
No?
But the Tablet P I really, really wanted. There it is. It was. It's available for $220 online right now if you want one, with a big old gap in it in the middle of the screen because it needs to accommodate the hinge. I still...
It takes all kinds.
I want one. Maybe we could do a throwback on that, or people would want us to do a worst ever on it because it probably didn't sell very well. But I would feel mean doing a worst ever on it. What do you think, Dustin? Did you ever have any hands-on time with this thing?
I did not. I didn't really want to. I remember there was like a Sanyo phone or something.
Yeah,
that came out around the same time. It was the same premise.
The Kyocera Echo.
Oh, I love the Echo.
It's terrible. There's there's no. I'm totally against the playing around with crazy form factors. I think all...
You're anti that.
Yeah, because all modern software is designed for the slab now, right? So anything that's designed that's not a slab, you have to figure right off the bat there's going to be software issues before you even think about what kind of crazy hardware problems there could be. Every cool phone, like I loved the HTC G2 for T-Mobile that kind of like the screen like clicked up, you know. I thought that was really cool. But the
Oh,
springs went out on them, and you know, like I've never had a cool phone. My Motorola Sidekick Slide, there was a ribbon in the back that you could see, and it got cut somehow
yeah.
by just sliding it open. I've never had a cool hardware phone that hasn't had some kind of tragic end.
Oh, I have. A bunch of Nextel dumb phones had a push to flip button. They were clamshells, and you'd push a button on the side, and they would like flip open so violently that if you didn't hold onto them tightly, they'd fly out of your hand. They were the best.
I had one of those. I think it was like a 6350 or something. It was a little navy
Nokia.
blue one. Yeah, that you
Nokia
press
had
the
one, yeah.
button
That
right
was the
up by
best part.
antenna.
Yeah.
The first Matrix film with the push
Deployable
button.
slide there. Yeah, that was the sliding one. Yeah. And then Samsung decided to come out, but they put a different spin on it with a clamshell dumb phone back then. You'd push the volume rocker. You'd push and hold the volume rocker up, and like a piezoelectric motor assembly would deploy the clamshell for you.
Oh, beautiful.
It was, I mean, I kind of liked it. I should find, if anyone knows what phone I'm talking about, I think like Phone Scoop had a hands-on of it like 13 years ago. I would really like to find that.
They need to bring it back with like a steampunk influence. You like press the button, you can see these big cogs turning and
Yes.
steam, like shooting out the back. That would be awesome.
That's the problem with our modern electronics. They don't belch enough steam. There aren't enough visible
That's my
gears.
complaint.
You're right. You know what? Speaking of steampunk, Taylor and I were talking about doing grabbing a Moto 360 and doing a Pocket Watch mod on it. Just doing a little weld of a crown on there and attaching a chain to it, which would be great. What's Steven holding up there?
Stopwatch.
Oh, a stopwatch. God, you have so many cool things in that
Toys
room.
for toys.
What's next on the thing? I want to talk about Sony some more, but maybe on a future show, because I think, honestly, with losses this bad, don't you think that it's possible that Sony might just kind of decide to stop or at least pull back its efforts? I mean, the company's culture is one of pride, so I don't see that.
I can see them pulling back more, focusing on the Japanese market in particular, kind of backing away from its European plans. This has always been its strategy. It was talking about scaling back from the worldwide market so that it could try to build up its user base in certain areas, and then maybe down the road start having its phones everywhere. If even what it's doing now isn't working, then maybe scaling a little further back is the obvious thing to do, but I don't know if it's necessarily going to fix everything, because it's just what it's been doing now on a different scale. So I don't know.
They just throw a phone in the PS Vita and call it a day.
We have a comment from Shedlin Busu from the UK. He says he's only seen one or two Sony adverts for their phones, and he's been saturated with Samsung. So at least in the UK, it seems the situation is much the same as it is over here. Damn it. Well, I selected the wrong Q&A because my system is running slowly, but please take your shades off.
You're wearing sunglasses and can't see anything.
Sujit Suram. I will not. I have committed to this choice. It's a stupid choice, but I'm sticking with it for the duration of the show. Where's the question I meant to think? Oh, there it was. Dan Alexandru, kind of addressing what we were talking about a second ago. Do you think Sony's issues stem from the fact that they keep releasing flagships every 6 months, or rather are they a result of not coming to North America? That 6-month thing we talked
That would
about.
fix things or just make things worse.
What, coming to North America?
Yeah.
I mean, how would it increase their expenses to a significant degree if they launched on a whole new continent? I imagine so.
I would think just shipping the phones alone would be expensive. Not only making sure there's custom firmware for carriers and
the carriers.
It would be interesting if they were to strike a deal with another carrier. I feel it's odd to me that Sony, which is obviously like any OEM, is excited about expansion, and AT&T, which is the most aggressive U.S. carrier there is in terms of trying to secure device exclusives and just devices, haven't come to some kind of arrangement. I feel like AT&T carries everybody except for Sony.
Wasn't there that rumor about the Sony Xperia Z3V coming to Verizon?
Yeah, well, there's a rumor about the
Verizon
Z2
seems to
Verizon too.
be the carrier that has the most matching up with Sony. We saw those Z2 renders that were clearly prepared by someone at the company for a reason that had that Verizon logo around back.
That's
never
right.
happened, but clearly Sony's thinking about Verizon a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Verizon also does a lot of
purposely-
exclusives.
They're purposely leaking these renders, just hoping that somebody from Verizon will be like, all right, fine, we'll carry the phone.
Nudge, nudge.
like Nokia did with Instagram. They started a whole hashtag.
Yeah.
To Insta with love.
Only less successful.
Ba-dum-bum. Hey, another thing not coming to the market ever is this
Oh.
thing we're looking forward to. Stephen, drop this sad news on us. And OnePlus can't seem to do much right these days. What's happening?
I feel like OnePlus should just release a phone called the Facepalm because it's been misstep after misstep. I mean, we're being harsh on this. The phone itself is fine. It's being sold at a really great price, but just every little thing that could go wrong about releasing it and marketing it seems to be going wrong for the company. And the latest failure regards these style swap covers. OnePlus announced these back in March when it might have even been before the phone itself was formally announced, but they were talking about these interchangeable covers that would be made from a neat array of materials. They named 5 at the time. There's sandstone, silk, Kevlar, denim, and bamboo. Not all, like the sandstone and silk weren't going to be actually sandstone and silk, but a cover that felt like it, whereas in the Kevlar, bamboo, denim, that would be the real deal. And then when they released the phone, finally, they started tying some of those materials to specific models. Like you want it 64 gigabyte, you got sandstone. 16, you got silk. That might not be how it was, but you can only get certain capacities at certain finishes. But those weren't really the style swaps. That came that way from the factory, and it wasn't something you just move around. Then, oh, hey, Miss Taylor. How are you, sir?
Hello. I'm great. How are you guys?
Welcome.
Taylor Martin, welcome to the show. Start your sound recorder and listen to us talk about OnePlus for a second.
Yeah, so OnePlus finally got around to releasing the style swap covers formally, I think back in June or July, but only the bamboo one. So if you already had a OnePlus, one of the few people who secured the phone, you could have an alternate cover. Swap that on, go back to the original, fine. But now OnePlus is saying that's the last we're ever going to get. Apparently, it's a bevy of issues. They're running into manufacturing problems with the bamboo one. They didn't say, I mean, they did. The actual yield rate is very, very low, just not meeting their quality standards. But more than that, the companies realized that the swapping procedure in general isn't really working. They keep warning users about battery damage and even just damage to the covers themselves because they don't really seem designed to withstand the removal and installation process over and over. So rather than have users, rather than continue to release these style swap covers and have users breaking their phones a couple months down the line as wear and tear builds up, they're just saying, nope, that's it. We'll sell the bamboo ones we have left. So if you do want one, hurry because they're not making anymore and stocks are going to be limited. But after that, no. Maybe with the OnePlus 2, we'll try this again, having learned from our mistakes. And we might sell, like the denim and the Kevlar ones, those might come out as special editions where you order it that way, but it's from the factory, it's already installed. But we're not going to see the rest of those 5 materials released as interchangeable ones. So it's really unfortunate.
It is unfortunate. The reason I put it in the rundown is because it's particularly bad timing on their part, considering that Motorola just expanded its entire line of customizable backs. In addition to the wood from before, now you have other wooden options, and you have this Harween leather now, which feels really good on the Moto X, and a bunch of new composite colors too. And it's like, we thought we were sort of on the cusp of maybe this becoming normal, thanks to OnePlus helping lead this charge, and now to see them back away from it, it does make sense. If you look at it after the fact and say, hey, listen, guys, we might have a lot of customers breaking their phones. We might have a lot of expense from having to replace phones that customers break when they're trying to do what we tell them to do. Maybe it's not a good idea. Maybe we should pull back. I respect them for making that decision, but it's a damn shame because customizable phones are boss.
Yeah, and especially now that OnePlus is not getting rid of the invite system altogether, but also it's going to soon be offering users the ability to pre-order the phone without invites at all. You sort of got the sense that OnePlus was fixing some of its initial road bumps with the distribution and the sales of this guy, and then to get this news, it's one step forward, 2 steps back. maybe not two steps, but it seems to have canceled out any momentum we were going to get from
We come
improving
together
sales
because
situation.
opposites attract.
Yeah, MC Scat Cat.
Yeah. I want to hear the final news story in the rundown because we have 2 minutes left in the news segment, and these are fun rumors. Very dramatic reveal of this brand name, which is a little bit scary, if you ask me. Stephen, give us this briefing, and then we'll talk to Taylor about his big old iPhone.
Well, we have an HTC event coming up next month, the Double Exposure. The company sent out invitations to a little while back. And at first we didn't quite know what to make of that, but then the picture started emerging. We might get, with a selfie phone, the HTC Eye that the company talked about before, or the company didn't talk about, we had talked about earlier this summer after hearing rumors about the code name, as well as this weird, but now we're hearing a little bit more about the selfie phone. Just a little hardware info. It might be a 5.2-incher, full HD, with a Snapdragon 801. We're not hearing much more about the camera, which seems to be the point. So that's a little weird. Weirder still is this talk about another Eye model, and the idea that the company might have an M8i in addition to this HTC Eye. Now, none of these we're sure are actual released names, especially for just the HTC Eye. It's been presented as a code name, so we're not expecting the device to launch as this. M8i, I'm not so sure, but the idea here would be a phone very, very much like the One M8. So most of the internals identical, the same look and everything, except that it would trade out that ultra-pixel camera for the 13-megapixel shooter we've been seeing on like the E8 and some of these Desire models. And yeah, while it's more pixels than the ultra-pixel camera, it really hasn't got a very good reception. Or at least our hands-on with it didn't seem very promising.
They're talking about putting that sensor on the front of one of these?
No. Keeping it on the back.
Oh.
Instead of the 4-megapixel. But still
no matter where you put it, it's a miserable camera.
A mashup of the E8 and the One M8.
Yeah, we don't need that.
No.
I don't know. If that camera delivers the results it has, I mean, I would almost rather have. I think between the two, we should do a Moto X versus like One Mini 2 shootout or something, just to see which camera is the worst.
You're the worst.
They're not good cameras, man. I mean, like in a vacuum, I was looking at the new Moto X camera and I was like, okay, I can live with this. And in fact, I did make that decision because I ended up buying a Moto X for myself, a new one. But when you put it up against the S5 camera, which I'm not a giant fan of because the Galaxy S5 doesn't do very well in low light, I mean, the S5 just destroys it. I mean, man, the world as seen through the new Moto X, I would hate to be the new Moto X because the way it sees the world is like a season ahead of everyone else. Like everything is dead in the Moto X photos. Like the leaves are already brown and gone. And in the exact same shot from the Galaxy S5, it's like, hey, spring's here. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Didn't HTC used to have like pretty good camera phones, right? I remember the One S thinking that's not terrible. That's okay, especially for what it was.
HTC has always made a big noise about how its cameras are awesome. But I think the reaction in the public has always been sort of one of, not in the public, excuse me, this is very different. The reaction in the press has always been one of disappointment. I'm not sure the public has an opinion on the matter.
You think the press and public have different opinions?
We tell them what opinions to have, right?
We're the voice of the public.
Damn it! Well, I'm looking forward to seeing what HTC is going to be bringing to this, to all these categories.
And the end of that is talk of maybe another Windows Phone device, and this one not necessarily one based on exhibit like the M8 for Windows, but something a little bigger than that, maybe in the phablet realm of sizes, but we don't have many details at all. So this is just a very loose rumor right now.
All right. Well, I wouldn't be surprised about that. I mean, certainly not to hate on HTC, but I think they probably have some hardware left over from building the One Max that maybe they didn't need to use so much. So hey,
maybe it'll be like Motorola putting its 3-year-old SoCs it had a big box of in its latest product.
I want to say that I do hope this just occurred to me now, but I really do hope that that's not what we see. I hope we don't see a bunch of repurposed One Max stock loaded with Windows Phone, because that would not
First
be.
Windows Phone with a fingerprint scanner. It's a revolution.
Yeah.
What was
Not
that
what anyone
phone?
asked for, but
Remember that Windows Phone 8X, I think it was called, the
Yeah.
colorful ones? Those
Yeah.
were
Those are
really
pretty.
cool looking phones. I'd love
Yeah.
to see like
And the
a
8X.
They were
5.5
so
inch
cool.
one of those.
They were very cool until you used them for like 6 months, and the soft touch paint started rubbing off of the corners.
Ugh.
And now they're all getting screwed with the 8.1 updates.
Yeah, but I liked it too. I was very excited about the 8X and the 8S when they launched, and but I don't know. The M8 is a much better effort. So speaking of aluminum phones, Taylor, you've unboxed the iPhone 6 Plus by this point, I imagine. Tell us all about this monster.
If my internet connection sucks this week, it's because that's actually uploading right now.
Oh,
So
It's stealing all your bandwidth.
yeah, I figured it would be
iPad
better
sound
for me to.
goes.
Yeah, it's 2 minutes remaining, 90% uploaded. But here it is. This thing is it's not as big as I thought it would be.
bigger than I thought it would be.
What do you mean? I mean, it's the same size as the Oppo Find 7A.
Yeah, I didn't play with it.
Oh, well, I did. I reviewed it.
Yeah.
It's over there. I left it over, I left my light on. I left everything from the unboxing table.
I'm surprised we can't see it from this distance.
yeah. I ran over to the podcast from my unboxing setup, and I have mine here. And yeah, the first impression I get from Taylor holding this unit up is like wide. Like that word is just filling my head. It looks like a very wide smartphone. Yes.
Here, I have a little size comparison.
I did a little size comparison in mine too. So Taylor's holding up an HTC One M8 and the iPhone 6 Plus, and though the 6 Plus is markedly wider and somewhat taller, it's actually not that much bigger. Then again, the One M8 is one of the tallest smartphones you can find, thanks to those boomsound speakers, right?
Yeah,
It's
but it's
kinda ridiculous
hashtag
how-
boom sound.
Hashtag boomsound. What'd you say, Dustin?
It's ridiculous how similar those two devices look when you hold them up like that.
It's like the same
Yeah, because the
Pantone
banding
color.
and everything. The same color, the banding. In person, they don't really look that much alike, but in that little preview I got on my thumbnail, it did.
This is
Now, how many people are going to have one M8s and people are going to walk up to you saying, "Oh, is that the new iPhone?"
well, like the people who ask when they see the 360, like, oh wow, is that the iWatch? Did you get the iWatch early? It's like, no.
Yeah, this is something I can't get used to so far.
Sideways, so landscape home screen. I forgot that's happening. It's like a little iPad.
Yeah, I don't really like it.
It's
but
blowing my
What?
mind a little bit. You don't really like
How
it.
is that not awesome?
Yeah, I don't know how it's not awesome. I agree.
Because it's been an option in third-party Android launchers forever, and I've always turned it off because it's annoying.
Oh, I hate that it's not in the default Android launcher on my Nexus 5. I miss that.
I never use my phone in landscape.
I always use my phone in landscape.
What?
Wow, you guys should have a cage fight.
Like you just don't see as much. You don't see as much when you're using it in landscape. You have
When
to
I'm
scroll
watching
more.
videos and stuff.
If I'm watching videos, yeah, but that's
That's not on the home screen, right?
right. I'm not watching video.
I'm jumping out. I want to use an app, jump back into a video. I don't want to keep twisting the phone around. I'm lazy.
I feel like it's easier to do on iOS than it is on Android, because with Android, if you have a lot of complicated widgets set up, it's tough to like redraw the layout for those to make them look good. Like
It's
we've seen that on
sticky icons.
tablets. But yeah, iOS is like pretty simple.
Also, stealing my bandwidth are all the apps that are restoring to my phone.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, good choice. I stopped my sync, because of the podcast. But whatever, dude. Whatever you want.
Some of us make sacrifices, some of us don't.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. Why don't we get to the Q&A here, because a lot of people have been asking questions. We have a segment coming up in a second here, but I just want to answer some questions now that both our iPhones are on the air with us, which is pretty cool. From Pablo Maldonado, the most upvoted question so far: do you guys think that when Apple launches their smartwatch, that the non-techie population will care, or will it always be a novelty item?
I don't think the smartwatch will be a novelty item in a few years. I think right now it's one of those luxury items that not everyone feels the need for, but in the next, 3, 4, 5 years, it's going to become kind of the auxiliary device that everybody falls back to. It's just kind of like not everybody wanted a smartphone when those started. granted, a smartwatch is not a smartphone; they're not standalone, but they are useful in many different ways. And
what role do you think Apple's entrance will play in pushing the category forward?
I think it will boost general consumer awareness of wearables, but I don't think wearables are, or specifically smartwatches, I don't think they're completely this unknown category to the general public, because Samsung has done a very good job, if nothing else, of making people aware of smart by releasing 6 of them in 1 year. So,
with this question, I don't think that Apple's necessarily, or the Apple Watch would attract techie users. I feel like those might be, not just looking or breaking this down platform lines, but I feel like the Android Wear models, or not even just Android Wear, but the the Gear models from Samsung, the stuff that's on the Android side of the fence, offers a lot more features that might attract the very technical users. I feel like Apple is going to go after this luxury market, especially we'll be hearing about pricing. This is going to be for people who have money to burn, and it's going to be attractive. I know it's a novelty item, but it's a status thing almost, especially with the gold option, the real gold, not gold-plated option. It's going to attract a different market than I think a lot of the Android smartwatches do.
Did any of you guys read that John Gruber article about his prediction for pricing?
Yeah.
Where he said that the gold weight alone of the gold watch would price at around like $5,000 to $8,000.
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
Gold weight alone. So it could very well be a $10,000 watch.
I don't agree with all of his ideas. I think it's wrong to equate this with something like a really high-end, especially mechanical watch that goes after, I guess, a different type of buyer. But I feel like there are these people who have the money, who are into Apple's ecosystem. Celebrities are going to eat this thing up, right?
Absolutely, and that is going to have a cascade effect on the general populace.
Just don't put your pictures on it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I learned.
Alone from the hands-on videos and stuff, I think Apple just totally blew it with the interface. I think it looks so ridiculously complicated for a watch.
And
for
it looks horrible.
1.5-inch watch, that is insane to me that they would think that circle home screen idea is a good idea, period. I would hope that, this is my honest hope, that most consumers will start to play around with that and say, it's so bad I can't use it, or it's too complicated. So that way, that doesn't become the de facto for, this is the standard smartwatch interface going forward. We have to do something similar to that because now that's the one that everybody owns. I
don't think it will. We haven't seen that in smartphones. Apple has stuck with this grid in iOS for as long as iOS has existed, and everyone else has felt free to diverge from that in various degrees, whether you're talking about Windows Phone or Android or even BlackBerry or the Fire OS or Yola. We have innovation elsewhere. So I don't think that's going to happen. I agree that it's kind of an absurd UI, an absurd looking UI, but until I use it, I'm not sure if it'll be too bad. I don't know.
I mean, I honestly can't say, but I would say like the software, the fundamental variances between iOS and Android and between the iWatch and Android Wear are totally different. To me, they look worlds apart. Android feels like you can pick up an Android device after using an iOS device and pretty much, figure out what to do. Same thing between Mac and Windows. But to me, it looks like Android Wear is just so much different than what Apple has in touch that, I don't know, I think it looks just totally different. And I think it looks terrible. I don't mean to be so negative, but I really think the Apple Watch looks so bad, the software.
Well, we're gonna have some time to chew on the Apple Watch stuff going forward. I just sort of wanted to touch on it because a lot of people wanted that question talked about. But there's a question directed to Taylor from Dan Alexandru, which says, does the iPhone 6 Plus have any features that justify its size? The Note line seems to be the only series that takes advantage of the added screen real estate to add large-screened features.
This is very true, and in terms of the iPhone 6 Plus, there's not really anything. I literally have not played with this thing yet. I unboxed it and came over to my desk. But I will say that if you jump into the Settings app and you rotate the phone sideways, which it's not doing, it's It's of course not going to rotate for me.
It's busy syncing right now, right?
Yeah. Little shimmy.
There we go. You get a paned view, which is nice. It's not anything we haven't seen before on other phones, but that's about all you're going to get right now to take advantage of the extra display. The other thing is reachability. You double tap the home button. I don't know if you can see this.
Double tap the home button and the entire
Slide
home
on
screen
down.
shifts down by 50% so that you can access the top of screen elements, right?
Yeah.
Now, when you're
that's
inside
for
an app,
one-handed
that
use.
brings the back button down to meet you, right?
Yeah, so if you're in settings and you double tap it, it's hard to do at this angle, but if you double tap, it brings the whole UI down.
The whole screen comes down, then you can easily reach over with the thumb. And, you know, that these are smart things. But, yeah, there's nothing like multi-window, for example. There's nothing like...
No multi-window.
I wonder if we're going to start seeing third parties address this form factor and release apps that, like that settings display there, look a certain way on the 6 Plus that they don't appear on the iPhone 6 or the smaller models.
Does Apple still have rules about not duplicating functionality with third-party apps? I know it doesn't apply to all of them, but it would seem to me that would be the kind of thing Apple wouldn't want to allow because they're very possessive about their user experience.
But at the same time, don't they want apps to highlight its new devices? They don't the same apps on the iPhone and the iPad. They encourage developers to make iPad-specific versions.
Yeah, but we've
seeing
seen
6 Plus versions of apps.
We've seen plenty of manufacturers who seem totally content to release large screen devices and completely fail to optimize them, optimize the UI to that experience, like HTC, like Nokia, Microsoft.
Sony.
Microsoft thought up the coolest way of multi-window and Snap on Windows desktop, and they refused to implement it on Windows Phone for some reason. So it's like,
That is not the coolest way to multi-window.
what's the coolest way to multi-window?
Windows just floating around as far as the eye can see.
Nonsense. It's no.
Maybe on a desktop, but not on a phone.
Steven, I'm going to get you a T-shirt that says Q-Slide Fanboy.
Yeah, if you use Q-Slide apps for any amount of time, or what is it, Sony's small apps is what they call it, you'll totally retract that statement because it's just not that usable on a phone.
Yeah. Darrell Johnson asks, Daryl Johnson, I've seen a lot of print about how awkward the iPhone 6 Plus is size-wise. Is it significantly more awkward to hold and use than other Android phones? Good question.
It's thinner. That's one thing. It's very thin. But the cool thing is that the glass does bubble up over the edges, so it feels very natural to just kind of curve your fingers around it, which a lot of bigger Android phones are very blocky. They're squared on the sides, and it makes it a little more difficult to hold, especially like the Z Ultra. That phone is not it's not
ergonomic.
fun to hold. It's not ergonomic at all. This one is it's easy to grip. It's slick, but it's easy to just kind of grip really easily. I wouldn't say it's any harder or easier than any other phone this size.
I just worry that all these iPhone users are not going to be used to having phones in like their pockets. Are going to start breaking these things when sitting down, or just have uncomfortable bulges in their jeans.
I'm waiting for the first.
Can we quote that?
Can we
Apple users are going to have uncomfortable bulges in their pockets.
I call them like I see them.
Gotta call them like I see them. Mux. So on that note, Dustin, did you have a point? Because I was going to transition to our next segment. If you don't,
I was just gonna say I'm waiting for the first social media posts and then subsequent blog posts about people sitting down and then their iPhone bent in their pocket.
Oh yeah, they're gonna regret not doing that.
Battery will explode.
I was about to say that's a quick way to turn your iPhone 6 Plus into a G Flex, but
Which you should want.
Sharper angle there.
Pretty awesome. Let's move on, gentlemen. We're already talking about big phones, and it's the thing to do. So let's move on to a segment called Tough Spot. The Tough Spot music is the coolest.
It is
damn Tough Spot ever. Tough Spot. Everyone, if you're just joining us for the first time with Tough Spot, this is a segment about difficult choices, usually between unappealing alternatives. It's about making the most out of a difficult situation. On today's Tough Spot, the next smartphone you buy, gentlemen, all of you are going to have to answer this, so listen up. The next smartphone you buy has to carry you through the entirety of a standard American 2-year contract. on a carrier of your choice. Doesn't matter. But its screen size has to be 6 inches or greater. Which device do you choose? Justify your answer.
That really narrows down the options, doesn't it?
Yeah, but I made sure there's an option now on every major platform.
There's the Mega, the 6.3, the Z Ultra, the 1520.
Wow, you're really good at rattling those off.
I insist on BlackBerry phones, so what am I going to use?
There's the G Flex.
Yes, that is 6 inches, isn't it?
6 inches on the nose. Yeah, brother.
That's 4 phones to choose from. Are there any other 6-inch?
There's the One Max.
Phones? Okay.
Because I think that's 6 inch, right?
I don't think so.
No, maybe it's 5.5.
Yeah, I
or
think it's
5.7 or something. Yeah. All right, so maybe not the One Max. But yeah, so that's the catalog. And if you can think of another one, that's fine. You can choose, but you have to choose one. And remember, in what is this, September? In September of 2016 is the earliest you'll be able to get rid of this sucker. So you got to be careful here.
This is mean.
I want to start with Dustin.
That's why it's called
start with Dustin?
Spot. Yeah, Dustin's the guest, so yeah, I think he can
start
us out.
I can't even imagine using a phone above 4 inches right now. So, man, wow, this is hard.
One Max is 5.9 inches.
Yeah,
FYI.
that's what Jules just said.
What about that Google Play Edition Sony phone? That was above 6.
The Ultra.
Right?
The Xperia Z
Yeah,
Ultra that
6.4.
Taylor bought for some reason.
I'd have to go with that, because if I had to use only one Android phone for 2 years, it would have to be stock Android. And I'm pretty positive that phone falls in the L update window.
Yes.
So long as it would have Android L, it'd be stock Android. I do like Sony's phones for, as far as, I guess they're all right. I would like it a lot more than the Galaxy Mega, I think.
Oh God, yes. But why? I mean, you carry an iPhone 5S now. Why don't you immediately just say iPhone 6 Plus?
Because
that's not 6 inches.
It's
or
not
larger.
a 6-incher.
What is it? 5.7?
5.5.
5.5?
3.
Yeah. Do you want to see something, Dustin? Since that was your pick.
Yeah.
This is the iPhone 6 Plus. This is the Z Ultra. I don't know if you can see how big that is.
Oh my gosh. If the iPhone Plus is an option in this conversation.
The iPhone Plus has to be an option because I miscalculated.
Then I'm doing a 5.5-incher too.
Yeah, but no, that sucks because now the Spot is less tough, so I can't undermine my own ish like that. But I thought the Plus, for some reason, I think it's because of the 6 model number. Like I thought the 6 Plus was bigger. Also, lest you think I'm just ignorant, guys, I've had to deal with the Moto X all week, and now I'm on the iPhone 6, so I haven't paid the Plus a lot of mind, so forgive me for my screen size mistake. But all right, let's keep the rules the way they are then. Doesn't matter.
Okay, I have to go with the Xperia Play Z Ultra, Google Play, Google Edition.
But it's already a year old at this point. You stuck with it for 2 more?
It has the Snapdragon 800. It has 2 gigs of RAM. It has a 1080p display. It's waterproof.
It is waterproof. I mean, that is the thing. How's the battery?
The biggest problem.
It's and tiny.
The battery is like 3020. It's something like that.
Jeez.
Stock Android L. I mean, that's the most important part.
Can I show you something? I want to see if you can pick up on this because this is one thing I totally forgot about when I bought it. Do you notice anything about the backside of this phone?
Taylor's showing us the backside of his Xperia Z Ultra. It has an Incipio case on it. Oh yeah, there's no flash on the camera.
No flash on the Z Ultra.
I've never used the flash on my camera.
I don't use it ever. I never use flash, but that's why I got the 6 Plus for the optical image stabilization. But yeah, that is one thing that everybody points out no matter what every time you talk about the Z Ultra. But I'm going to go ahead and answer
please.
Z Ultra because I already have one.
No, that is not sufficient justification.
No, I'm saying I've already justified buying one. I chose it as my phone that I put my own money down for. That's my justification. Mm-hmm. It fits in the dash of my car. It's a nice fit. It's waterproof. And it's Google Play Edition. It has CyanogenMod on it, and it's got a fairly decent build. The developer community is almost dead for this phone, but you do have CyanogenMod and Android L. So.
All right.
I'm happy with it.
I'm with you. All right. That is sufficient justification. 2 votes for the
Plus,
damn Z Ultra. Yeah, go ahead.
the Mega is horrible. I mean, it's got, what, a Snapdragon 400 in it?
I'm not saying anyone. I don't know why we're talking like anyone seriously suggested the Mega as an option for 2 years. I mean,
It's one of the only
No.
5 options.
that's a lot of options.
Samsung option, right? And Samsung's like the Android manufacturer still.
If they had made the Mega a Note series and put an S Pen in it, that would have been my choice, but they didn't. So
Oh yeah.
And the reason I made this 6 inches or larger is because, first of all, it's harder that way. But second of all, like there are some
Because
people who
6 inches.
just legit want the biggest screen possible. And for those people, I think they deserve to know which ones we would favor. Thank you for your answers.
Oh, there is one more option.
What is it?
We already have it. Both of us already own it.
Oh, the
The
Mate 7.
7. The Mate 7.
Word.
Totally forgot about that. Totally blanked. So I have 2 6-inch or larger phones. I'd still choose the Z Ultra.
Quadwa Boadu, thank you for pointing that out in the chat. Good call.
Oh, somebody pointed that out?
Yeah.
Totally.
So, wait, hold up. So, as a result of that shout out, I missed your answer. Taylor, did you change your answer?
I did not.
Okay. Would Dustin change his answer?
Very possibly. I have not got to play with that phone yet, but it looks very, very nice. It was the biggest surprise to me of IFA. I was blown away by how nice that phone looks.
Yeah, us too, actually.
Yeah, it does. The only reason I probably would not choose it for my phone is that in my time with it, I carried it for about a week and a half. It is very laggy. It is very laggy. Opening home screen folders, switching apps. If you hit the recent apps key, it takes like a second and a half to come up.
It takes a while to load that. Yeah, but I want to make the point that at no point, guys, did I say that you had to run this thing stock.
That is true.
Load a custom launcher on there. You can root that ish.
All right.
Do whatever the kids are doing these days. So
that's tough too. I don't know.
I still think
Got a
just
fingerprint
being
scanner.
able to
Really good one.
So Taylor's still sticking with the Z Ultras, Dustin. Yeah.
I still think just being able to get stock Android L over the air, to me, is the biggest draw, hands down. I'm that guy that, even after all these years, I have to have stock Android when I'm running Android, period. I don't like anything else.
All right. These are good. All right. These are good answers so far, then. That's fine. Steven, have you had enough time to ruminate?
You know, the point of having as many voices as we do on the podcast is to get a variety of opinions. So I feel like I'm letting the very format of this show down by throwing my vote in with everyone so far. I gotta go with the Z Ultra. I mean, wow. I love the design of the 1520. Windows Phone is a non-starter for me, especially for using this for 2 years straight. I don't want a 6-incher. I really don't. I hate this question. A 5-incher is slightly too large for my tastes already. I don't know that I need a 4-incher, but like a 4.7, a 4.8. That's my zone.
This ain't called fluffy spot. This ain't called comfy vacation day.
And exactly for the reasons that Dustin's been talking about, for this stock Android, for just... If I have to sacrifice on the hardware side, I at least want a smooth, consistent software experience. So give me the Z Ultra GPE. I'll make the best of things. Or could I take a 1520? If we're allowed to do custom ROMs, could I take the 1520, hollow out the chassis, and throw in like Z Ultra hardware? So
No,
it looks
you are not allowed
phone?
to defy the spirit of this fine institution with that Frankenstein nonsense. And neither are you, commenter, who has since gone away thanks to this stupid interface. Was it Carlos? Yeah, Carlos, you're cheating. What about pad phones or phone pads? No. Well, actually, phone pads, yes, those would be inbound.
Yeah.
But pad phones would be cheating, but I admire your spirit. My answer is a different version of Steven's disrespectful rant. I would take a 1520 as it is, friend.
I like it. It's a nice looking phone. It just has the wrong software on it.
It doesn't have the wrong software. No, 1520. Listen, I like carrying Windows Phone about 30% of the time because it's one of my 2 daily drivers. So I'm very used to Windows Phone. I like it very much. I love the Lumia camera thing, and really the 1520 turned me off because of its sheer size. But if I'm going to be subjected to that size anyway, I would rather have a PureView camera backing me up while I did it. And Windows Phone already has most of the apps I need to get my life, on track.
Michael,
away from trouble.
I said the exact same thing about the Z Ultra. I said that the size of it alone just made me very jaded towards large phones. And that's one of the reasons I bought it again. And I changed my opinion. It stretches my pocket, jabs me in the stomach a little when I sit down, but I learned to deal with it. And we made up. We're good friends now. Except for the fact that I broke it and it doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, that was probably one of your not your smartest times.
Yeah.
Respect the jazz, Thomas View reminds us in the chat. Everyone respect the jazz, please. I don't know what that means, but it's a very, very, very good piece of advice.
Yeah.
Thank you for your indulgence. I wonder if Jules Wong has an answer for us. Podcast producer Jules Wong, you're in too loud an environment, but if you have an answer, I wish you would drop it in the chat for us because we want to know what's up. He'd take
1525.
He'd take a 1530 or a 1525 right now, but a 1530. What's a 1525? Did they refresh the 1520? Oh, is it the T-Mobile variant? The Snapdragon 801. Okay, roger that. Thanks, Jules. Good times. Good times, great oldie.
Android phones. What is that? China. The link that Jules dropped.
Oh, yeah, there's a site called ChinaVasion.com.
You can get one for $94.99 right now.
We'll get what for $94.99 right now?
7-inch GPS Android tablet PC with 3G.
Trying to stop myself.
Or an octa-core 6.5-inch Android 4.2 mobile phone Aries?
Oh, I don't know.
With a MediaTek 1.7 gigahertz CPU.
Oh, a MediaTek.
I'm getting a little... guys, I'm starting to feel a little dirty. Jules, can you play the music again just to get us out of this and get us back on track?
Pull us out of the mud.
Yeah. No, says Jules.
And you asked so nicely, too.
I know, right?
What was that? The death line of the podcast.
You are a strange, strange man, Jules. We like you very much. Listen, guys, I think it's about time we line up the chime and get into listener mail and then get ourselves out of here. What do you say?
Listener mail!
Yeah. Okay.
Waiting for the bong bong. Oh, I think Jules' soundboard is down, but that's okay.
Well, he's muted. It has a little something to do with it.
All caps in the chat. Jules says unmute.
Jules, sound the chime. God, it just doesn't feel right without the chime. And thank you for making that work. Thanks, Jules. I had to mute you again because Hangouts, that sucks. We will talk about this further, but I think we need to get to some written-in listener mail. It's been the first time in several weeks that we haven't managed to do this. That we've managed to do this because we've had so many special edition episodes. And would anyone like to kick us off? Stephen, would you care to read one? Anyone but Eric's, because I have to read Eric's.
That's the one I have pulled up at the moment.
Oh no!
Yeah. Fine. Let's see. Here is one from Jason. Jason Beckles writes in saying, "Hi guys, as always, you do a great job with the podcast, and I look forward to them every week." Well, thank you, Jason. We look forward to doing them. Has a couple questions for us, and writes, "Even though it's quite humorous, whenever I look at the little robot logo for Android, I can't help but think of it as a little childish. With the advent of Android Silver being in the works, is it? Do you think Google will phase out the robot for a more sophisticated logo?"
I hope not. That's my answer.
Android.
It's Android, right.
I mean, what other logo could you have? That's
it could be any sort of robot. It could be a little more professional, not so neon green robot, but
I don't want that at all. I mean, we've seen Android gradually kind of drift from its roots. Well, and some of that was great because version 1.x was just a heinous amalgamation of ugly elements. But it's got better looking toy there over time. What are you opening up, Taylor?
This is an unopened Android figurine that my mother got for me at a Google conference a while back.
Oh, terrific!
Teachers.
Well, yeah. The thing is, Android has progressed in terms of its look and feel, and that's been a great thing. But for a while there, it was really positioning itself as this techno alternative for people in the know and like people who liked modding and stuff. It really embraced its nerd roots, and since it's gotten away from that, it's become a little more usable. But I think it's also become less fun. The Android doesn't need any less fun. The green robot is our mascot. We don't need to get rid of it.
I feel like we don't get that much of it to begin with. I mean, how often do you see the Android when you're, I don't know, installing
like updating software?
Yeah, but it's not a big part of the Android experience. I mean, if you're a fan, then yeah, you're going to see it on logos of all the fan sites out there, on T-shirts, on little toys like Taylor's unboxing now. But it's not like Google is putting it front and center for its Android promotions. Android is usually a very text-based thing. When I see the logos, you just see the word Android, you know?
Yeah.
For Kit Kat, they were selling just regular Kit Kats that you could win Nexus 7s through that had the Android character on the front.
Good
but
point.
I think that Google and Android is more friendly now because it's more fun and friendly because they use really bright and fun images for all of their stuff. Like all of their Google Now images and their Android Wear like default images, they're just kind of like bright, bold cartoons. I think it looks good. I think the Android fits in. And I think any change that you could make that to the logo or to the mascot, I think he's more of a mascot than a logo.
Yeah.
Any changes you could make to the mascot, whatever kind of, different brand image it would bring, I don't think it'd be worth losing out on. People already know that's the Android logo. I think even normal people know that's the Android logo now.
Wait, are we not normal people?
No.
No.
Man, breaking news.
Oh.
Well, this thing kind of broke in transit, I think, but I can get the point across. The glasses won't stay together. But how about this? A little educational owl.
Oh, yeah.
Is that sophisticated enough? He's got a little diploma and graduation cap. How about that?
A little Android, little Play Store diploma there.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan. Let's move on.
No. Oh, well, we did have a not follow-up, but second question from Jason here.
It's also cheating.
He wonders what ringtones we use. The standard ones that come with our phones, or do we have songs, speech clips, something else installed as our ringtones of choice? What
I
do you
do.
guys have?
I have a Moto 360.
Mm.
That's my ringtone.
Wow. Juiciest answer ever.
No, if you use a wearable or a smartwatch, you'll typically want to mute your phone because you don't want to get dual notifications. I have not used a ringtone in probably about 4 or 5 years.
Jules answers this and says, I use songs from Super Mario Galaxy 2.
Awesome.
Pretty awesome.
Michael's answer better be that he uses Ali Spag's.
Ali Spag's Radiation? Yeah, no. I don't. I should, though. I would actually use Ali's other song, which is Robots for Everyone, and that's the one that she told us about on the interview where she, the first word of the song is nuts, and there's a big hold after that word, and it takes forever to get to that word, so whenever people use it as a ringtone, it's like 8 seconds of music followed by Ali saying the word nuts, and then it stops.
I love it.
Yeah. No, I use all Star Trek sounds on all my ringtones. I have a whole folder in Google Drive. I mainly prefer the Star Trek Voyager computer sounds because they're a little more soothacious than the bird chirping of Next Gen or the Cardassian sounds of Deep Space Nine. So that's where I'm sitting with that. And usually my ringtone is the original Star Trek series communicator beep. Yeah, that's how I roll. Even though I too have a 360, I just don't have to be a D about it. Do you have an answer?
I was just looking at my phone. I didn't know what I had. I am using the Spagnola orchestration. So
no
kidding.
kidding.
There.
Sweet.
But when I do install a custom one, like I had on my Nexus 4, I use the 24 ringtone. The doo 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 from Jack Bauer's phone.
That's a good one.
Like the commercial play out, like the one that resembles a ticking clock.
No. Just whenever the phones ring on the show, it's the sound effect they use.
Oh,
They're on
Roger.
their Cisco. That's the one. Yeah, exactly.
All right,
I
cool.
think I'm going to change my ringtone to my girlfriend trying to hum the beat of the Pocketnow intro clip.
Oh.
Something
Yeah,
like that.
she got it wrong like 3 weeks straight. Every time she'd hear it play, she'd try to sound it out.
Actually, every time I listen to the podcast, every time. Jesus Christ, Jules. Oh, there it is. So Hangouts refuses to allow concurrent audio, and Jules really wants to move us off of the Hangouts platform for this reason and others, and I really, really want to move as well. But unfortunately, every time Jules tries to make the show better, which it is better in editing, every time he tries to make the show better in the live incarnation with live music, all we get is like room tone from Jules' end, and it's half duplex, so we all end up talking over it. So this is a long-winded way of saying, I'm sorry, Jules. It's not your fault. It's not your fault.
Say Google and that Android logo.
Yeah, it's the green bot ruining us. Dustin, what's your answer?
I'm gonna play it, and I want you guys to tell me if you recognize it.
Okay.
Oh, totally, I recognize
it's
it.
from a video game, like you found a secret or something?
No, it's not. No, it's... Oh, it's a phone ring from like a TV show or a movie.
It is a phone ring from a movie, Mr. Fisher. Or should I say a television show?
Yes, it's from House of Cards.
That's right.
I
It is
never
technically-
recognized that one.
It is the Spirit ringtone from BlackBerry OS 7. I found an original OS 7 system dump, found the ringtones, extracted it, changed the formats, put it in iTunes, and uploaded it to my phone. I went through a
Nicely
lot
done.
to get that ringtone.
Did go
Now,
through
every time it rings in public, there's at least somebody that's like... I don't want to give any
I
spoilers.
should mention my aspirational ringtone. Well, we're talking ones that you have to go to a lot of work to get. I really want the ringtone from the James Coburn movies, In Like Flint or Our Man Flint. If you have the opportunity, look this up on YouTube. It's a very elaborate sounding ring. I've never found a clean sample of it I could use, though. There's always background noise, so that's hasn't happened, but that's the dream.
My aspirational ringtone is the there it is. Except it's coming through on my audio, so I'll have to composite it later. But it's the Ringer 1 from Samsung's dumb phone days in 2003. It's this like gradually building polyphonic melody that I really, really enjoy. So I'm gonna have to put that back on there. You've inspired me, Dustin.
I like it. I also have Guile's theme song from Street Fighter. That's the only other ringtone I have.
I can't join in this because I don't even use ringtones ever.
Yeah,
Voice
you're not
You guys
having any
make
fun,
voice
bro.
calls?
I don't get voice calls.
That's okay. That's okay. Why don't I go ahead and read Eric's email, his piece of listener mail, which I'm trying to find and I can't find it. There it is. Hiding a flat tire. This is called. This is from my new friend Eric. Now that you've had some hands-on time with the LG G Watch R, I wanted to get your opinion on something. Lots of people have given Motorola flack about the so-called flat tire on their Moto 360, which LG brags is not present on the plastic OLED display of their watch. I ran into Michael a couple weeks ago, yes you did, and told him how I've been researching OLED displays for the past 6 years. I'm pretty darn sure there must be a display driver attached to some edge of LG's display. My guess is they have it concealed under that chrono bezel of sorts, and in doing so, they've significantly decreased the screen-to-bezel ratio of their watch. What is your take after seeing the G Watch R in person? And if I'm correct about them hiding their flat tire, is it the aesthetic improvement of its concealment? Is that improvement worth the loss in screen size it brings? P.S. Michael has cool speech patterns, Stephen should be a professional newscaster, and Taylor's occasional antics are very annoying, and I wish he would quit. No, add lots of life to the podcast.
You wish they were annoying.
Well, thank you, Eric. Thank you very much. This is a really great question. My take on the G Watch R is that, yes, it's cool that they managed a perfectly round screen, but number one, I don't care about a perfectly round screen. The flat tire doesn't bother me at all on the 360. And number two, the G Watch R looks like something I would take hiking and rock climbing and maybe not want to wear any other time.
Crime fighting.
Yeah.
Don't forget about that. Crime fighting.
Right, nighttime crime fighting. Yes, indeed, you're right.
Vigilante crime fighting.
What about you, Taylor? You've had your eyeballs on this thing, too.
Yeah, I wouldn't... It doesn't match my style. I would never wear it to begin with because it is so big, bulky, and just kind of overdone is the style that I would say that it is. I don't know.
I think that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, but this right here, this horizon line, after you wear the watch a little while, it kind of irked me a little bit at the very
Moto
beginning.
360, this is.
Yeah, it kind of bugged me a little bit at the very beginning because you have that chamfered edge on the glass, so you don't see just one horizon line. You see the original, and then you see the oh gosh, refraction. You see the refraction where it's actually a little higher, so you see a little like dip. It's very hard to show. I won't be able to show you here, I'm sure.
It's a mirage horizon.
Yeah, but you see this little jagged edge because of the chamfered edge on the glass. But after you use it for a day, it's not even there. You don't notice it. It's another thing. I love the way this watch looks, and I love the way the display looks. I don't care about the flat tire.
Agreed. With you on that one. But, we'll wait and we'll do a proper side-by-side comparison once we get a G-Watch R in the house. No doubt. I will say this. I wish watch face makers were more cognizant of what they were building for the 360, or I wish that Android Wear handled it more intelligently, because when you have a watch face that looks amazing because it's all in black, but for some reason your number 6 is missing, that's a little frustrating. Whatever.
I have a question, Michael. What is your preferred 360 watch face right now?
Right now, I'm trying to get away from it because it's like getting a little played out because you use it. But this, what's it called? The one that looks like a dartboard. Rotate is what it's called.
Oh, yeah, look at this.
Taylor's making...
I put it back on. You can't see it. It's rotated as well.
Relocate my shoulder here.
Yeah, so Taylor has the same watch face. Listeners who still constitute the bulk of our audience. Taylor, listeners, describe what you're showing to us all the time. Taylor, Martin, remember the listeners.
Use your words.
Listeners. I use the same one, and sometimes I switch to the one that's called digital, which is just text with the little second hand that runs around the outside.
That's so whack. Digital is so whack. Taylor, you want to read the next piece of mail, or Dustin? I'm obliged to offer a piece of mail to you as well. It is your option whether you want to defer that offer or accept it.
I can read a piece from Trevor.
You'll be reading the penultimate piece. Read us Trevor's email.
Okay. Trevor asks, you were talking about the upgrade models introduced here in the States. They are no longer the crap they were when they launched, and Taylor crunched the numbers on them. For AT&T anyway, now they just take the cost of the phone and divide it over whatever term you choose, be it 18 or 20 months. And so if you upgrade, when your upgrade comes available, you only pay at the most retail price. But you have to trade the device in when you do upgrade. That's the only downside. And if you want to keep the phone, you have to pay until 24 months, which is decently more expensive.
Now, I put this to Steven before we went on the air, and I said, Steven Schenk, is this true? And he did a little bit of research for us.
Nope.
Or not entirely. So what's the story?
I'm not sure exactly what's being referred to here. This is one of the new installment planning things.
Next.
I'm not sure if this is Next, because I don't think Next has 24. I thought it was like 18 or 12 or 18, or not 20 months.
20, I think.
Yeah. This is talking installment plan. If you're on a normal, where you just like a subsidized contract thing, AT&T still does the normal ETF, where it's like $350, then $10 off for each month of service. This is only if you have one of these weird, new, wonky kind of T-Mobile but not situations. So it just makes it a lot more confusing to keep track of what the expectations are going in. But pay attention to the contract when you're signing it and signing up for that loan for the phone, because depending on exactly what your plan is and how you bought the phone, how you get out of it is going to be different.
I will say that, even though we've talked about how maybe financially speaking in the long term, some of these plans, these installment plans are not a great idea a lot of the time. For me, for someone who upgrades frequently and cares more about getting a new phone than retirement planning, these can be real lifesavers. So I tend to like the
I financed my One M8, but through T-Mobile it was the same retail price as I'm paying something $20 a month, and it's the same as the retail price after 24 months. So I can pay it off anytime. Or what he was saying, trade in. You take what I've paid on it, I trade in the device, and that value goes towards the next phone.
It's like cars. It's like buying a car.
Yeah, but I only think he's talking about next year because he said when Taylor crunched the numbers. And that's what I did. I crunched the numbers on the next plan because what it did was it would allow you to upgrade early, but by the time you paid off all the installments, it would be like $50, $60, $70 value.
Mm-hmm.
So they changed that, I do believe.
T-Mobile is probably the best one, because if you do the math, it means that if, let's say, you're an iPhone user, every single year you can essentially pay $360 a year to get a new iPhone every single year.
Yeah.
That's not terrible. Or a Galaxy Note 4 or whatever.
Isn't that more than you'd pay just buying the phone outright and selling it in good condition 12 months later?
No.
Not
it's
necessarily.
more. Yeah.
No. It's because it's $20 a month and then $10 a month for insurance. So not only do you get a guaranteed new flagship phone once a year, you also get any kind of damage, accidental drops, anything. It's fixed for free.
Well, that's the kind of behavior I'd expect from our nation's uncarrier.
Yeah.
Hashtag, am I right?
Yeah, the thing with buying a phone and then selling it and buying it again is you have more money in limbo. So you buy the phone for $650, $700, whatever you're paying, you put that money down, you sell the phone, you're going to sell it for maybe $100, $150, maybe $200 cheaper than what you bought it for, and then you have to put more money into it. So you have more money in limbo, and you're still paying probably $200, $300 a year just to keep going. So you have less money wrapped up in it this way.
Word. Our financial planning course, Taylor Martin on personal finance, will be held in the downstairs conference room tomorrow, straight after breakfast. Please show up on time.
I may or may not be there.
The last piece of mail. Do you want to read it, Taylor, or do you want me to?
You go ahead.
Who hasn't read one?
I feel like this is gonna. I haven't read one, but I mean, I guess I can. But yeah, I'll do it.
Wow, that was the most complicated answer I've ever. If you don't,
Yes.
whatever, brother. You want to read it? Read
Fine,
the email.
fine.
Oh, hi.
You don't have to beg.
Put spy into it so that Noah doesn't feel disappointed.
Hello, everyone. Am I reading the one from Noah?
Yeah.
Yes.
Is that the last one? Okay. Hello, everyone. In the last few weeks, I've been thinking about switching to a Nokia Windows phone because of the camera experience and the overall minimalism, which I really like, coming from an iPhone 5S. Is it possible for you guys to give me a quick rundown of the pros and cons of switching to a completely different software experience like that? I'm not allergic to Android either. If there's a phone that gets the UX and camera right, I would also seriously consider that as well, maybe the Note 4. Thanks for all you do, Noah. Michael?
This email's fun because this question started off in one direction, and then I was like, I had my mouth open to answer, and then it took a left turn and went to a different place.
I like the phrasing, I'm not allergic to Android. That's beautiful.
Yeah,
That's
that's right. I feel like if you like the minimalism of Windows Phone, if that's what attracts you to Windows Phone, and you're coming from an iPhone 5S, I feel like the iOS to Windows Phone transition actually could be pretty smooth for the right kind of person, for a person doing it for aesthetic concerns and for usability. If you're concerned about ecosystem, it's not a great jump to make. But I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It just sounds like Noah wants something new. I mean, do you guys concur with that?
I do, and as long as the camera experience is good. And that's a big factor because there are a lot of really, really great Android phones out there that don't have a good camera experience. Most of the Nokia Lumias do, and then all of your iPhones pretty much have a pretty great camera.
And in the Android camp, Sony has quite a good camera experience.
Yes,
and
but
the
it's
UI is decent compared to the competition.
What, Sony?
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And that viewfinder is like the most buttery smooth thing ever. It's so cool. I really like Sony cameras.
I was thinking it might be worth suggesting going down a custom ROM road here if you really want something that's minimalistic and you're not opposed to Android in general. But then I also feel like if you're taking that route, you might be trading in some camera performance.
Yeah, that's pretty much the experience every time I've ever gone custom ROM.
Yeah.
You go custom ROM, and then your camera experience goes kaput every single time.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, because like look at HTC. If you have the 1M8, I converted it to Google Play Edition, and the one reason I came back was for the camera, because it just got so bad on Google Play.
That's interesting. Someone has asked us in the Q&A whether we're going to load the Google Camera app on the Moto X to see if that helps any, and yeah, that is something I plan to do. So yeah.
I had a Samsung Galaxy S4 Google Play Edition that didn't have any camera problems whatsoever. It was as good as the TouchWiz version.
Huh.
Somebody who's been in this situation before, I had an iPhone 5 and I was like just wanting something different. I cannot say stay away from Samsung phones unless they're Google Play Edition enough, because I was away from them for so long and I went back to a T-Mobile branded Samsung phone, and just the amount of stuff that is in the notification tray and the apps, it's like I honestly forgot how bad it was. And
yeah, my girlfriend
was like, "What? Oh my! How do people use this?"
My girlfriend was borrowing a Galaxy phone at one point for a while that I happened to have, which I no longer have, thankfully, and she was like, "Yeah, this I really like this a lot," and I was like, "Yeah, give it a day or two. Let me know." I mean, it was kind of a honeymoon phase.
Famous last words.
Yeah, by the end of that, like 5 days or whatever, she was like, "I can't stand this." I was like, "Yeah, well." There you go. It's not for everyone, but it's also not for no one. So I would recommend, Noah, trying out every single thing you can get your hands on. It sounds to me like you need some more concrete criteria. And if you narrow it down to some specific options, write us again. We'll see what we can do about getting you on the air in a segment called "What Phone Should I Buy?" which we're not doing this show, but we'll do it again soon. And with that being said, we have a lot of really cool Q&As remaining. We have technically about 6 minutes left. I'd like to get out of here because I have to get this iPhone video up and stuff. But if you guys wouldn't mind, I'd like to just answer this question really quick from Zoa Jared. Wouldn't the dimple on the back of the Moto X 2014 be perfect for fingerprint scanner?
No. Next.
Or would you prefer it to be a button that you can set what happens when you press it?
Yes.
A convenience key would be pretty cool.
I'm going to go with yes to the first question and yes to the second question. But if and only if, one, that fingerprint scanner is as good as the Mate 7's, and two, if you can use different fingers, like on the One Max, to launch different things.
Bam. You're asking for an awful lot, bro.
I don't care. I don't care. This is a hypothetical question.
I don't care.
I don't
Do what
care.
I want. I don't care.
Yeah.
I like it. Let's talk Windows Phone. I lost this question, and I'm not going to select it, but are we going to review the Lumia 820? Yes, we are. And there was one other. Oh, there's a question about Apple Pay, and we're gonna get into that a little bit. So we have a lot to cover in the following weeks. We also have a lot to do before this weekend. This week is over, so I think what we're going to do is take off. Before we do, Dustin, I want to thank you for joining us today. I know it's not a very short podcast, and I thank you for sitting through the entire duration of it.
I can handle it. I'm really good at sitting, so.
We are all a bunch of sitting experts when it comes to this show.
One of these days I'm going to do the standing. I feel compelled to set up a standing test experience and try it.
One of these days I want to do this as a call-in. Steven, you remember when we did the show solo when I was standing outside the Hooters on the sidewalk?
Yes, you do it from outside, everyone on location.
Yeah, we should do that. We should call in. We should just have an all call-in show. It'd be great.
I'm standing, guys. I don't see what the problem is. It's not that hard.
While we're talking about the length of the show, I want to say that if you like this podcast, this is not a promoted spot. It is just a piece of advice. If you like our podcast, you will probably like a podcast called The Voicemail, starring our friend Stefan Constantinescu and his friend James Watley, who gave us the most just precious shout out on their most recent episode, where James said, "Yeah, no, I like it. It's it's a good show. It's too long, and I couldn't talk to you for that long, Stefan." And Stefan was like, "Yeah, I think I'd have to drink some alcohol if I had to spend that long with you." But they otherwise gave us a wonderful little review. So they're our podcast buddies. The voicemail is a shorter show than this, and they talk very cynically about a lot of things, which I like a lot. Keeps my youthful optimism in check. Check them out. Thevoicemail.net is their URL. A note on music, listeners. Our transition track is called Radiation. It's from an artist we spoke of earlier in the show called Ali Spagnola. She once stopped by the Pocketnow Weekly for an interview. I should look up the title of that episode, the number, so you can go find it. It's a good time. She has millions of fans around the world. You should become one of them because she is very awesome. Visit her YouTube channel, youtube.com/AliSpags. Visit her website at alispagnola.com. Both of them are linked in the description below.
Episode 97, by the way.
I was wondering what that was in reference to.
Very much. That is going to do it for this episode of the Pocketnow Weekly, folks. I forgot to write an outro script, so we'll see how this goes. Jules Wong produces this show. He can be found at Greenpoint0 on Twitter, and hopefully he hasn't quit after today because I muted him when I was asking for sound effects. I'm sorry again, Jules. Find the hosts on social media. Taylor, well, he's just so lovely at Caspertech, Caspertek. Stephen Schenk actually tweeted for once in his life. Holy crap! Stephen Schenk, StephenSchencK. Follow him. You'll get a tweet a month, just like a mail order.
I can do one a month now?
Yeah. Come on.
Expectations, Jesus.
Our guest is Dustin Early from Android and Me. He can be found on Twitter at DU57IN. And I generally ask you to retweet links to my own content because I am self-important at Captain2Phones. Captain, the number 2 phones. You can also follow Pocketnow on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Google+. And hey, leave us a review for the podcast wherever reviews are left. iTunes, Stitcher, wherever you want to leave them. Reviews help us get found, and we help you continue to. That helps us to continue bringing you the show. I'm going to stop talking. Thank you for listening. Thanks to our sponsor at Themer.com. We'll be back with more Mobile Tech Talk next week.
Good day.
Bye.
God ye good den.